As police officers, I think that we try and stop young people getting into trouble. So if somebody is caught with cannabis, for example, whereas back in the day used to get charged with possession of cannabis, where now we've got like a drug education program.
Hi everyone, I am Char, CEO of Full Circle Docklands, and you are watching Forward Focus. Today I am here joined by
Maz Collacott-Nuur.
Thank you for joining us, Maz. Can you please tell us who you work for and what do you do?
Yeah, Char, I'm a police sergeant and I'm part of Avon Somerset Constabulary. My role is the neighbourhood police sergeant for St Werburgh, St Andrews and St Paul's. And I've got a team of a mix of PCs, police officers and PCSOs. So we deal with like day-to-day, more low-level stuff. Neighbour disputes, harassments, and we've just taken on some sexual offences, burglaries that happen in the community. So we deal with that sort of thing, as well as all the engagement and community events that we go to.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge facing our communities today?
I think currently knife crime, because St Paul's, sadly, in the last 12 months we've had three killings, so that is a massive thing that plays on my mind quite a lot. I worry about young people, especially young men in the community. The last community meeting that we went to, I sort of picked up that young people felt as though they didn't belong anywhere. It felt as though their voices weren't being heard. There was a lot of missed opportunities. I saw in that meeting we've got some really educated, strong black men that could probably take a more positive role. You know, especially understanding our own history as black people, and I think sometimes our young people don't get that. So I think that's probably a loss of identity almost.
With what you just explained, what do you think the solutions could be?
Those people in the community, and we have got so many good people in the community that could help educate young people. So for example, we have got, I can think of like 2 or 3 individuals, and their main job is educating people on black history. And what I would love to see is those young men go into Docklands or go into St Paul's Learning Centre and having an input from those people about black history, and actually that we came from kings and queens, and you know, we have got such a strong identity, but no one really talks about it, and I sense that maybe they don't know where we've all come from. So I think I'd like the community to educate young people, and that's something that we as police officers can't do.
What do you think the police can do to better engage with young people who may be involved in antisocial behaviour and youth violence?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing is education. So we know mums and dads, I've got 3 kids, we work really hard, and sometimes we're so busy trying to earn money that we trust our kids to be left at home. And if with 3 teenagers myself, I know I've got to constantly like pester them. Where are they? What are they doing? And I think as police officers, I think that we try and stop young people getting into trouble. So if somebody is caught with cannabis, for example, whereas back in the day used to get charged with possession of cannabis, where now we've got like a drug education program. So they have an input over a couple of weeks why drugs are bad for you, what could happen if you get caught with drugs, and it's the same with any low-level staff. So we've got the violence reduction unit. So if people are vulnerable for whatever reason, they're being exploited, because you've got to remember that anyone under 18, they're still a child, and we as the police have still, we see them as children, so they are getting exploited. Young people don't carry knives because they want to necessarily carry knives. Like, what are they scared of? And the meeting that we went to in St Agnes Park, the young girl was really interested because she was saying something like it's a kill or be killed situation, where young people aren't necessarily scared of the police. They're more scared of walking down the road and being caught by somebody who's not a friend of theirs, and been injured seriously. So, you know, even though we try and do input, so we've got Andrea who goes into schools and she does education around sexual exploitation, because you've got to remember that girls are vulnerable as well. We always think about boys. And we do inputs on knife crime. We do the safeguarding, so going into schools, we make sure that we're all connected. So police, schools, social services, and we're sharing that information, which is really important. I used to work in City Academy as a schools officer, and you know, a child would be Sunday night getting caught up in a domestic at home. They'd come to school Monday morning and they haven't got their tie, and then they're sent into isolation. Like, to me, that never really made sense. I was like, hang on a minute, you know, they should be in the class with their friends rather than be sat in a classroom by themselves for like 6 hours. So I'm glad that's all changed. Obviously, exclusion is still a massive problem in Bristol, isn't it? But
what do you think it is that makes a young person go down the wrong path?
Oh, it's a variety of things. So in policing, we get trained on childhood ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and it could be things that start at home. So it could be parents might drink, or there's a lot of domestic violence or neglect, whatever. And I think children just go and find somewhere where they belong. So if it's their friends, they tend to spend more time with them. And it's just having that guidance, isn't it? And I think if not necessarily, if you haven't got the figure to look up to, if things are chaotic at home, then you look somewhere else for a sense of belonging. And I think that's probably the biggest problem. And I think that's why communities, we do need to have those characters that, instead of not necessarily social services getting involved, that every family has got somebody in the community that they can go to for guidance. And obviously, if they can't help, then that's when we can step in and start supporting young people. But it's a minefield, isn't it? Because I think if we knew exactly what it was, we'd probably all be doing something to help them. But I think even though we're all teenagers at once, we're all different characters, aren't we? Right. So I have no idea. But I just know that we're a support network for them.
Your presence in the community has certainly been felt and appreciated by many who I speak to, and from the whole Docklands team as well. What made you want to be a police officer? Tell us about your journey.
My journey. So I was born in Somalia. So I was adopted. So I came to the UK when I was like 3 or 4. I didn't speak a word of English. And where we lived, I think my first bit of racism I experienced was probably when I went to secondary school, and we had a policeman that lived nearby, and he was just the nicest person. And I just remember thinking, actually, I could do that job, when somebody feels, you know, really gives you a lot of confidence. So I joined the police in 2001, and then I was a police constable for about 19 years. So I've worked in neighbourhoods. Right at the beginning, I worked in a response team, so it's like in the cars driving around. And then I worked on a hate crime unit, so I really understood what it's like to be a victim of a hate crime. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, whatever. And then I went on to like a sector focus team, so we're dealing with like violence, drugs, that sort of thing. And then after I had my 3 children, I felt as though actually I've got quite a lot of skills, and I'd like to share that with other people in the organisation. So I did my sergeant's exams, which is a hindrance and a helping sometimes, because I was a beat manager in St Paul's for about 3 years, and then when I passed my sergeant's exams, I got moved out, which I was a bit like devastated about. Poor Glenn, I think, saw me crying. I was crying because I was happy, but I was also a bit crying because I was like, oh no, I've got to go somewhere else now. So that happened, and then when I had the opportunity in December to come back to St Paul's, I just jumped at the chance, because I just think that the people here just work so hard to improve it. And you know, there's these characters, like even on Grosvenor Road, I love going there because it's just so many things happen, don't they? Not always like the bad stuff, but people are just happy to see you. People are happy to, I think also being a black woman, you can identify a lot easier. You may have gone through the same sort of scenarios in your own life that other people have, but we've just taken different paths. Policing is hard. I would say it's definitely hard, but I always think the more black women especially that we get in the police, the things easier are. So I'm part of National Women of Colour in Policing, and it's a really nice support network, because sometimes there are things that you can't speak to your colleagues about because they don't understand. And you know, the fitness clubs I was doing here for the women, I think everyone really enjoyed it, and it's just trying to do something different, isn't it? The bleep test. Yeah. And you know what, that bleep test, it doesn't matter who you are in the police. If you're a police officer, you've got to do that bleep test every year. Every year I get older. In 23 years, I haven't failed a fitness test yet, but every year I think this is the year. So you've got to make sure you stay fit. So, and I just remember thinking, if I find it really stressful, then it really must be a blocker for other women thinking, I can't join the police because I've got to do this fitness test. But I think the ladies have really enjoyed it and given them that confidence that they needed. So that's good.
Going forward, what would be your ideal scenario for the police and community engagement?
Right. For me, the biggest thing is things happen in the community and we don't always report it. I think our community needs to understand that there's Crime Stoppers. People might not want to ring me and say, Maz, this has happened, or call 101 or 999, but Crime Stoppers is just such an amazing resource that you can call, give the information, and you don't even have to give your name. I'd really like people to use that, because I think if people use that Crime Stoppers, we'd get the intelligence that we needed, and then we can do like proper targeted patrols and really support people. If we know there's people hurting people in the community, then we should know. Most of the time I sense the community know what's going on, but people don't want to tell us what's going on. And then who suffers? The community, because there's that saying, you know, first they came for the Jews, then they came, and I didn't say anything, then they came for the Christians, I didn't say, and then when they came for me, I had no one. So, you know, it's that actually we need to support each other so that people can feel safe walking down the street. That's my plan.
So are you the first Somali police sergeant, female police sergeant?
I'm the first Somali police officer, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm definitely the first Somali police sergeant. So it is nice. Being the first is amazing, but there's also that pressure, isn't there, that you think, I feel as though I've got to do really well, because I know there's going to be women coming behind me, and you want to set that standard. But also, I think I'm probably a bit like you, Char, that I want to do the best all the time. You put that pressure on yourself, don't you, to perform constantly, because you want the best outcome for everybody. But yeah, I'm really proud. I'm really proud, and I think I'm really proud of this community. And for me, I was talking to the bleep test ladies about the degree so we've got like it's called PCDA, where young people at the age of 18 can join the police, and they start on about £28,000, and that's a lot at 18, isn't it? Because most people are probably still living at home, and trying to encourage young people to join the police and think, actually, this is a career that I could think of, I can foresee myself doing, because in 23 years, I've really loved it. Obviously, you get those moments that you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure if I can do that. But 99% of the time, I feel as though I'm in a position, especially as a sergeant, where I can challenge other people's behaviour. A quick example is, I had a meeting once with Safer Options, and they were talking about a young black boy that I knew, and they'd caught some cannabis on him and he was charged. And I was thinking, he's never been in trouble. Why have we charged him? So it went from charging him for him to just go to a drug education programme. So I think it's really important. I know the community think, oh no, I couldn't join the police, but actually it's really important to have a diverse police force so we can stop those things happening, because sometimes we criminalise young people. But it's a battle that you can't do by yourself.
No, and there's also many other roles in the police. I know you don't just have to be an officer, I believe. Could you explain some of the other positions that?
Yeah, so the bleep test that I've been running, so it was an 8-week course, and every week we had a new person come and speak to us. So when people think about policing, they always think it's about the uniform. But we actually couldn't do our job if it wasn't for all the people in the background. So when we issue tickets on cars, we have the central ticket office. So they're all ladies. So the guy that came, he's like saying, oh yeah, all the admin staff work from home. They go into the office like once every couple of weeks. So if you've got a young family, that's perfect, isn't it? So we've got the central ticket office, we've got comms, so when you call 999, they take the calls, or 101. We've got Lighthouse, so when people are victims of crime and they go to court, the victim care will look after you, explain what the court process is. Who else have we had? I think we've had the safeguarding, so they deal with like people with like poor mental health and make sure that we're doing referrals, and what else is there? But there's loads. Too many to name.
Regarding young people, how do you think social media has influenced them?
Oh, Char, as I said, I've got 3 teenagers. It is a battle, honestly. So for parents, I absolutely feel where they're going through, because like with my 3, they're in their rooms and like on their phones all the time. And that's, at first, I used to think that's their way of socialising, but no, they need to get out, don't they? Yeah. But actually, and it's easy for me to say, it's my day off today, we're going to go in the car, we're going to go somewhere. But actually, not all mums drive. So what do you do if you don't drive? And then if I'm saying to my kids, right, you go out to the park or go have a walk, that's easy. But what if you live in an area where you're thinking, actually, I can't go, I don't feel safe walking about by myself or with my younger siblings. So there's all these things that I take for granted that maybe other families don't have the opportunity, if that makes sense. So I think there's got to be more. If I had the power, I think I'd probably have more say on social media. Like they should be able to say, actually, even though they say, is it Instagram, you have to be 13, but we all know kids as young as like 10, 11, 12 are on TikTok and they're on Instagram. It's like constant monitoring, isn't it? And if you've got to work full time, it's like having that energy, isn't it, to constantly battle with your child to say, you can't have this, you can't have that. And yeah, it's full on.
I understand that Rambo knives has been banned.
Yes.
I truly feel that something needs to be done about knives coming through the post, because there's so many stories of young people ordering knives online and like ordering it to their neighbors' houses and kind of like knowing when the neighbors are out to then collect the packages. What do you think the government can do regarding, you know, scanning packages that may contain bladed objects?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we need to do more about that, because, you know, if somebody's sending cannabis or something like that through the post, we can monitor that. That's easy. Right. And then we go and do a little knock on the door, like saying, right, this has come through the post, you shouldn't be doing that. Words of advice, if we can prove who it is, then we can take them to court, possibly. But with knives, it's so much trickier. So we had an asp, so the baton. So a couple of weeks ago, we had somebody who received an asp, so they stopped it at the ports. So they gave us the address. So we went then to visit the person. But there could be so many that we miss. It's like the constant, you know, maybe it's education that the ports and airports need to be keeping an eye on that sort of thing. But it's not shops as well, because I think a lot of people think that knives are being sold from the shops, but we've got young cadets. So they're all under 18, and then they go and try and buy alcohol, and then we can tell what shops are selling alcohol to young people. We can say, right, can you go and get us buy a knife? And if the shop sells a knife to an under 18, then we know that there are the shops that we need to keep an eye on. But you're right, Char, when it comes through the post, it's so hard. Really difficult. Yeah,
I definitely feel the government has a lot more to do there, because that's something that they can control if they put a bit more focus onto it.
100%.
Yeah, and hopefully that would help the flow of knives coming in. You know, they will stop a gun instantly. So, you know, one of our biggest issues are knives, and why are we not putting more focus at the entry into the country of it, or let's say the packages coming in? Okay, so what would be your message to the community?
My message to the community would be, look after each other. You do need the police. That's the biggest thing, and I think sometimes it's recognising that I think people try and do things by themselves, but actually we can be really useful. I understand the history and the legacy of St Paul's and what it used to be like, and you know, you talked about the elders, and I think I said to you, I'm quite scared of our elders. I haven't been to Malcolm X yet because they've gone through so much trauma, so much pain, that I find it really challenging to go and knock on their door and say, oh, I know all that's happened, but we're going to move on, because it was a long time that they had to
endure.
Yeah, absolutely. So apart from that, I will get the courage to go there. But apart from that, I think I would just say, you know, try and support us, because my team really want to do the best we can for the community, and if we had the trust and the confidence from the community to do our job, I think we'll see less violence, because we'll know the right people to be looking at and actually supporting. It's not always about arresting people and putting them in prison. It's like, what's happening in this young person's life? What support have they not had? What childhood experiences have they gone through that no one's picked up on?
Well, thank you, Maz. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. You are a shining example of what we would like to see in our communities, and I thank you for all the great work you've done.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Char.
Thank you. There you have it, folks. I am Char Lawrence, joined by Police Officer Maz. You are watching Forward Focus. Thank you for watching.